One fine morning, Henry was feeling very sorry for himself. Sometimes he could pull trains, but other times he felt he had no strength at all. I suffer dreadfully, and no one gives a shit! Oh, that's bullshit, Henry, snorted James. You just don't work hard enough. That sounds like a skill issue to you. The fat director spoke to him too. You're too expensive, Henry. You've had lots of new parts and new paint too, but they've done you no good. If we can't make you better, we must get another engine instead of you. This made Henry, his driver, and his fireman very sad. The fat director was waiting when Henry came to the platform. He took off his hat and coat and went undercover as a crewman. Henry did manage to start at first, but his fireman was not satisfied. Henry is a bad steamer, he said to the fat director. I built up his fire, but it doesn't give enough heat. Henry tried very hard, but it was no good. He didn't have enough steam and came to a stop outside Edward's station. Oh dear, thought Henry. I shall have to go away. Oh dearie me. All he could do was go slowly onto the siding, and Edward took charge of the train. He would puff forward out of the siding, only to be teleported back into it in the next shot. The fat director and fireman went on discussing Henry's troubles. What do you think is wrong, fireman? Asked the fat director. Excuse me, sir, he answered, but the fact is that the coal is wrong. We have had a poor lot lately, and today it's worse. The other engines can manage, but they had big fireboxes. Henry's is small, and we can't make the heat. With Welsh coal, he'd be a different engine. It's expensive, said the fat director, but Henry must have a fair chance. James shall go on Amazon.com and go order some online. When the Welsh coal finally arrived a few days later, Henry's driver and fireman were excited. Now we'll show them, Henry, old fellow! They carefully made his fire, putting large lumps of coal like a wall round the outside, round the outside, round the outside. Then the glowing middle part was covered in smaller lumps. Holy guacamole, my ass is a-burning, complained Henry. Wait and see, said the fireman. We'll have a roaring fire just when we want it. The fireman was actually right. When Henry reached the platform, the water was boiling nicely and he had to let off steam. How you doing, Henry, my boy? Beep, beep. I feel fine. Have you a good fire, driver? Never better, sir, and plenty of steam. All right, no record breaking, warned the fat director. Just don't push him too hard, okay? Oh, Henry won't need pushing, sir. I'll have to hold him back. Henry had an extraordinary day. He never felt so well in his life. He really wanted to go fast, but his driver wouldn't let him. Steady, old fellow. Don't worry, there's plenty of time, no need to rush. They arrived early at the station, and was just idling for a few seconds when Thomas arrived. Where have you been, lazy bones? Asked Henry. Oh, I can't wait for dawdling tank engines like you. Goodbye. Whoo! You think maybe, Henry's new coal will be put to the test? Both Annie and Clarabelle agreed that this indeed would become the case. One winter evening, Henry's driver said, We'll be out early tomorrow. We've got to take the Flying Kipper. Don't tell Gordon, but I think if we pull the Kipper nicely, the fat director will let us pull the Express. That special coal they gave you is working marvelously. Hurrah! Cried Henry. That will be lovely. All kinds of ships use the harbor at the big station by the sea. There are passenger ships, cargo ships, and fishing boats also come here. They unload their fish on the quay. Some of it goes to shops in the town, and the rest on a special train to other places outside the canon universe. This is the train the railwaymen call the Flying Kipper. Henry was ready at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There was snow and frost. Men hustled and shouted, loading the vans with crates of fish. The last door banged, the guard showed his green lamp, and thus the Flying Kipper was ready to go. Come on, don't be silly, puffed Henry to the vans. The vans shuddered and groaned, trick, trunk, trickety, alright, trick, trunk, alright. Haha, that's better, that is much better, puffed Henry. Clouds of smoke and steam poured from his funnel into the cold air, and the little fire's light shone brightly. Hurry, 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 panted Henry. The whole experience was going marvelously. The light grew better, and the signal lights shone green as they passed. And then a yellow signal appeared ahead. His driver prepared to stop, but the home signal was down. All clear, Henry. Away we go. They couldn't know the place from the main line to a siding were frozen, and the home signal should have been set at danger. But snow had forced it down. A goods train was waiting in a siding to let the Flying Kipper pass, and the driver and fireman were drinking cocoa in the brake van. The Kippers do, said the guard. Nah, who cares? This is good cocoa. Driver got up. Come on, fireman, back to our engine. They got out just in time. Although Henry's driver and fireman jumped clear before the crash, Henry lay dazed and surprised. The guard that was in the brake van was rushed to the hospital and later died of his injuries. The fat director came to see him. The home signal was down, sir, said Henry. Oh, cheer up. It wasn't your fault. Ice and snow caused the accident. Tell you what, I'm gonna send you to Crew, a fine place for sick engines. They'll give you a new shape and a larger firebox. You'll feel a different engine and you won't need special coal anymore. Won't that be nice? Yes, sir, said Henry doubtfully. Henry really enjoyed himself being at Crew, but he was very glad to come home. A crowd of people waited to see him arrive in his new shape. He looked so splendid and strong, and they gave him 3 cheers. Beep, beep, he whistled. Thank you very much. Though I am sorry to say that a lot of little children are often late for school because they wait to see Henry go by. They often see him pulling the express. He does it so well that Gordon is jealous. Little did he know, his new shape would soon be put to the test. One fine day, Gordon was cross. Why should Henry have a new shape, he grumbled. A shape good enough for me is good enough for him. He goes gallivanting off the Crew, leaving us to do his work, and comes back saying how happy he feels. It's disgraceful. Oh, and you want to know something else? Henry whistles too much. No respectable engine ever whistles loudly at stations. It isn't wrong, but we just don't do it. Poor Henry didn't feel happy anymore. Never mind, whispered Percy. I'm glad you're home again. I like it whistling. Goodbye, Henry, called Gordon. We're glad to have you with us again, but remember what I said. Later, Henry stopped at a random station. Hello, Henry, said Edward. You look splendid. I was pleased to hear your happy whistle yesterday. Thank you, Edward, smiled Henry. Shh, shh, shh. Can you hear something? Sounds like Gordon, said Edward, and it ought to be Gordon. But Gordon never whistles like that. Of course it was indeed Gordon. He came rushing down the line at a tremendous rate. He didn't look at Henry nor Edward, and he screamed straight through the station and disappeared without a trace. Well, said Edward, it isn't wrong, but we just don't do it. And Henry told Edward what Gordon had said. Meanwhile, Gordon screeched along the line. The noise was absolutely atrocious. And upon arrival at the station, everybody held their ears. The fat director did so too. God damn it, take it away, and stop that noise! Gordon puffed sadly away, but he wouldn't stop whistling until two fidders sacrificed their lives to climb up onto him and knock his whistle valve into place. That night, Gordon slumped into the shed. He was glad it was empty. It isn't wrong, murmured Henry to no one in particular, but we just don't do it. And that was the end of the discussion. Next morning, Henry was enjoying himself enormously. I feel so well, he sang. Trickety-trock, hummed his coaches. And then he saw some boys on a bridge. Beep, beep, beep. Oh, he was so... Oh! The boys didn't wave and take his number. They thought it fun to drop stones on him instead. They've broken our glass, sobbed the coaches. The passengers weren't hurt, but they were cross. Call the cops on them fools! No, said the driver. Leave it to Henry and me. Whatever will you do? They asked. Can he keep it a secret? Yeah, we can. What is it? Okay. Henry is going to sneeze at those boys and give them a sinus infection. Lots of people were at the station just before the bridge. They wanted to see what would happen. Henry has plenty of ashes, said the driver. Please keep all windows shut until we have passed the bridge. Henry is as excited as we are, aren't you, fellow? Henry was feeling more stuffed up than excited. Soon they could see the boys, and they all had stones. Are you ready, Henry, says driver. Sneeze hard when I tell you. Now, he said, Achoo! Well done, Henry, laughed his driver. Henry went home very pleased with himself. He had taught Gordon and silly boys a valuable lesson with a whistle and a sneeze. He hoped they would not be so mean ever again. Toby is a tram engine. He has cow catchers and side plates and doesn't look like a steam engine at all. All he does for a living is to take trucks from the farms and villages to the main line and is cheerful to absolutely every single individual that he meets. He has a coach called Henrietta who has seen better days. It's not fair at all, she grumbles, remembering that she used to be full and 9 trucks would rattle behind her. Now there are only 3 or 4 of those for the farms, and factories send their goods mostly by lorry. Toby is always careful. The cars, buses, and lorries, and other miscellaneous road vehicles always have accidents. At some point, Toby hasn't had an accident ever, but the buses are crowded and Henrietta is empty. A lady and a stout gentleman stood on Toby's platform. He was, of course, the fat director, but Toby didn't notice this yet. Come on, grandfather, cried the children. Take a look at this. Oh, that's a tram engine, Stephen, said the fat director. Is it electric? Asked Bridget. Oh, here's Toby. Oh, God, you've offended him. But trams are electric, aren't they? They are mostly, but this is a steam tram. May we go in it, grandfather, please? Stop, said the fat director to the guard. And they all scrambled into Henrietta. Hip, hip, hurrah, chanted Henrietta. But Toby was cross, and he didn't really sing at all. Electric indeed, electric indeed. He was very hurt. Well, what's your name? Asked the fat director. Toby, sir. Thank you, Toby, for a very nice ride. Thank you, sir. He felt better now. This gentleman, he thought, is a gentleman who knows how to speak to engines. The children came every day for 2 weeks. Sometimes they rode with the guard, sometimes in empty trucks. And of course, on the last day of the ball, the driver invited them all into his cab. How very nice of him. All were sorry when they had to go away, and the fat director and his family thanked everybody. Come again soon, replied Toby. We will, called the children, and they waved until Toby was completely out of sight. Oh, I gotta have a selfie with him. The months passed. Toby had fewer trucks and fewer passengers. Well, my boy, it's our last day, said his driver one morning. The manager says we must close tomorrow. And on that peculiar day, everyone wanted a chance of a last ride. The passengers joked and sang, but Toby and his driver wished they wouldn't. Well, farewell, Toby, said the passengers afterwards. We're sorry to hear your old tramway closing down. So am I, said Toby. Nobody wants me, Toby thought, and went unhappily to sleep. Next morning, the shed was flung open, and he woke with a start to see his driver waving a piece of paper. Wake up, Toby, they shouted. Listen to this. It's a letter from the Stout gentleman. Maybe it brings good news. Toby listened and... I mustn't tell you anymore, or I shall spoil the next story. There is a line to a quarry at the end of Thomas's branch. It goes for quite some good distance along the road. Thomas was very careful to whistle here, just in case anyone was coming. Early one morning, a large policeman was sitting close to the line. Thomas liked policemen. He had been a great friend of the cop who retired just 2 weeks ago. Beep, beep, he whistled. Good morning. Thomas expected that the new cop would be friendly too, but he was sorry to see he didn't look very friendly at all. He was red in the face and very cross. Disgraceful, he spluttered. My wife recently left me on Facebook, and now I have to go find a dating app such as Tinder or Bumble. Sorry, sir, said Thomas. I only said good morning. Oh, that's quite all right. Wait just a minute. Where is your cow catcher? He asked. But I don't catch cows, sir. Don't be funny, snapped the policeman. No side plays either. And he started to write in his notebook. Thomas had never seen such bullshit before. Engines going on public roads must have their wheels covered and a cow catcher in front to protect everybody from being dragged under the wheels if they stray on the line. You have it, so you're dangerous. What the hell? We've gone here hundreds of times and never had an accident. But that makes it worse, the policeman answered. He wrote regular lawbreaker in his book. And Thomas puffed sadly away. The fat director recently returned from Popeyes. He was eating some chicken, and then the butler came in. Excuse me, sir, you wanted on the telephone. Bother the telephone, said the fat director. What? Sorry, my dear, he said to his wife. Thomas is in trouble with the cops, and I must go now. At the station, Thomas's driver told the Fat Director what happened. Dangerous to the public indeed, eh? We'll see about that. The Fat Director spoke to the policeman, but however much he argued with him, it was no good. The law is the law, he said, and we can't change it. The Fat Director felt exhausted. I'm sorry, driver, he said. It's no use arguing with the policeman. We'll have to make those cowcatcher things for Thomas, I suppose. Oh, everyone laugh, sir, said Thomas. They'll say I look like a tramp. Well, John Thomas, why didn't I think of it before? We want a tram engine. When I was on my holiday, I met a nice little engine called Toby. He takes trucks from the farms, but the lorries took over most of his work, and he needed a change. Oh, he has cow catchers and side plates. I'm gonna write to his controller right now. Just a few days, up to a week later, Toby finally arrived on the Northwestern Railway. That's a good engine, said the Fat Director. I see you bought your coach, Henrietta. You don't mind, do you, sir? Asked Toby. The station master wanted to use her as a hen house, and that will never do. No, indeed. We could not allow that at all. To no one's surprise, Toby actually made the silly trucks behave even better than Thomas did. Oi, you! At first, Thomas was jealous, but he was so pleased when Toby rang his bell and frightened the policeman. They've been firm friends ever since. Though one of his colleagues would not take a keen liking to him, though. But that's a story for another day. It was a beautiful morning on the island of Sodor. Thomas the Tank Engine's blue paint sparkled in the sunshine as he puffed happily along his branch line with Annie and Clarabelle. He was feeling very pleased with himself. Hello, hello, Thomas, whistled Percy. You most certainly look splendid today. Oh, yes, I am, boasted Thomas. Blue is the only proper color for an engine. Oh, I don't know. I like my brown paint, whistled Toby. I've always been green. I wouldn't want to be any other color either, added Percy. Well, anyway, blue is the only color for a really useful engine. Everybody knows that. Percy was silent. He just smiled at Toby with a very sinister look. Later, Thomas was resting when Percy arrived. A large hopper was loading his trucks full of coal. Thomas was still being an absolute nitwit. Careful, he warned. Watch out for those silly trucks. Go on, ordered the trucks. Oh, by the way, those buffers don't look very safe to me. And then the last load poured down. What? Help! I'm choking! Get me out! Percy was worried, but he couldn't help laughing. Thomas's smart blue paint was covered in coal dust from smokebox and bunker. You don't look very useful now, Thomas. You look really disgraceful. I'm not disgraceful. You did that on purpose. Get me out. It took so long to clean Thomas that he wasn't in time for his next train. He was cross-eyed. Toby had to take Annie and Clarabelle on the voyage. Hey, what did I tell you about breaking Rule 55? You're suspended indefinitely, stupid signalman. Well, fancy a real useful engine. Like Thomas becoming a disgrace to the fat director's railway. The hell, man? Shut your mouth. The next day, Thomas was actually feeling a little bit better this time, as he watched Percy bring his trucks from the junction. The trucks were heavy, and Percy was tired. "Why don't you go ahead and have a drink?" said his driver. "Then you'll feel better." Unfortunately, the water column stood at the end of a siding with the unsafe buffers. Percy found that he couldn't stop. The buffers didn't stop him either. "Oh, help!" The buffers were broken, and Percy was wheel deep in coal. It was time for Thomas to leave. He had seen everything. Now Percy learned his lesson too, he chuckled to himself. And that night, the two engines managed to make up for their quarrel. "I didn't cause your accident on purpose, Thomas," whispered Percy. "You do know that, don't you?" "Oh, of course," replied Thomas. "And I'm sorry I was cheeky. Your green paint looks splendid again, too. Tell you what, in the future, we'll both be more careful of coal." "I certainly hope so." One sunny day, Thomas and Percy were idling in the station when Bertie the bus arrived. "Have you noticed something?" said Bertie. "What sort of something?" asked Thomas. "Fat director. He seems different," replied Bertie. "I did see him staring into space this morning. I wonder why." The reason was simple. It was Lady Jane Hatt's birthday, and Sir Bertram had a new outfit. "It's perfect for my birthday party," said his wife. "You look splendid, Bertram dear." "And I'll wear my finest hat just for you," he replied. "Your birthday is a great occasion." "It is. Please don't be late, okay?" "Don't worry, my dear. I shall be spick and span and right on time." Later that day, the fat director changed into his new suit. "You look fine, sir," said the butler. "You'd best be going." "Indeed," agreed the fat director. "The engines are busy. I'm just going to check my car." "Is it reliable?" "Of course. What could possibly go wrong?" As the fat director sped along, he saw an abnormally large hole in the road. He braked hard, but it was too late. "Damn it! I've got a puncture! If I change my wheel, I'm very sure to dirty my suit, and that'll never do. I'm gonna have to call somebody." Oh, just then you heard Caroline. "I have to attend my wife's birthday party, and I cannot be late. Please give me a lift." "I'll try, sir." But Caroline did not like going fast at all whatsoever. "I'm hot! My engine will overheat!" And it did. "I told you so," said Caroline sadly. "Ah!" "Well, well, well, if it isn't Caroline. You call yourself a car? You're a disgrace to the road. Find yourself a scrapyard." Caroline spluttered in fury. George's driver was more obedient. "May I be of assistance, sir?" "Just get me to my wife's birthday party, okay?" sighed the fat director. "We'll take you to Thomas. He's just down the line." "Much obliged." And they rumbled away. "What about me?" I'll call somebody and send for help. Just stay there, okay?" "That's all I can do." George was enjoying rolling along the lane, but not the fat director. Oil splashed everywhere, and worse was to follow. "Oh God! Something snapped inside of my body!" He veered out of control, and the fat director flew out and landed into a muddy ditch, close to where Thomas was taking on water. "God damn it, not again!" Thomas had never seen the fat director in such a mess. Can I help you, sir? Asked Thomas's driver. Yes, please. Get me to the station as fast as you can. I'm afraid our fireman caught a pandemical disease. I'll be your fireman then, sighed the fat director. Thomas was excited. The fat director had to work very hard. Coal dust and smut flew everywhere. Almost there! And at last, they finally reached the station. The fat director looked at the clock and then his watch. Just in time, he gasped. He hurriedly took out $20 and bought a huge bunch of flowers and ran in. Good luck, called Thomas. The fat director's wife was waiting for him. As the clock struck 3 p.m., there stood Sir Bertram Topham Hatt, tired but triumphant. And he gave his wife the flowers. Well, thank you, my dear. I knew this was a special party, but I didn't know it was fancy dress. Everybody laughed. And then the party began. And we were uninvited. Assholes. It had been raining for God knows how long. Toby was feeling miserable. Every square inch of Sodor was covered in water. His branch line runs through a village. The water in the river had risen with the rain. Only the Great Wall, known as a dam, was stopping the water from overflowing. Percy arrived just as Toby was about to inspect the dam for any damage. Driver tells me maybe danger's up there. Please be careful, Toby, said Percy. I'll try, replied Toby bravely. Percy watched anxiously as Toby trundled away. His journey took him over a wooden bridge at the end of the village. The river surged dangerously beneath it. Harold the helicopter was inspecting the dam as Toby arrived. Be brave, Toby, called his driver. We have to cross the other side. The dam certainly didn't look safe. Toby was very worried. And soon, he figured out exactly what the reason was. The dam! It's breaking up! We must warn everybody! Toby shunted back as fast as his wheels would let him. Percy was waiting anxiously for Toby by the bridge. The water had risen so high that the bridge was in danger of collapsing. Toby arrived. The dam is breaking up! We must find high ground! Shouted Toby's driver. Your only chance is to cross the bridge! Called Percy. It don't look very safe to me! Wailed Toby. It's our only chance, said his driver. If the dam breaks, we're done for. Toby barely made it halfway across the bridge. And the worst happened. Help! Called Toby. Oh, no! We'll follow him on our line. It meets the river further down. As Toby floated helplessly on the floodwaters, they passed a sign that made them shudder. Beware the waterfall. If we go over that waterfall, we're fucking dead. Then they saw Harold, who swooped low and shouted urgently to them, We're going to drop a rope to you! Attach it to yourself! Quickly now! And they did. To one of Toby's buffers, of course. Just then Percy arrived, and Harold flew over to him. Catch the rope, and pull Toby to safety! Oh, good. Toby was safe at last. When the floods were over and the dam mended, the villagers had a big party for Toby, hosted by the fat director himself. Well, Toby, you were very brave. Thanks to Harold, sir, Toby replied. I could have never been so brave, Toby. Oh, I'm sure you would be, but you never know until you tried. Percy rather hoped he'd never have to. It was a moonlit night, and Henry was working with Edward. The big green engine was taking a goods train to the station by the ironworks. Whenever that owl hoots, a mist rolls in, murmured Edward. There's a legend that when the mist's about, there's a ghost about too. Take care on the old line, Henry. Stupid bird, said Henry. Owls, mists, ghosts. Edward's going soft on the boiler. There's no mist. But Henry was wrong. The mist did roll in. As he puffed into the woodland area, things were spooky. What the hell was that? Oh, it's just an amber lamp, murmured his driver. That means just proceed with caution. Who's there? No one replied. Henry decided to creep slowly forward, and he stopped by a tree. It had a sign, "Beware of the viaduct." The driver was concerned. No one warned us about that before. Oh, look, the signal is red, and the gates are closed, and there's a fogman's coat. But where's its owner? Then they saw a light move from within the station building. Ghosts! Edward was right! Something very strange is happening, said his driver. I think it's best we get the hell out of here. So do I, agreed Henry. By morning, the mists cleared up, and a workman was talking about the unsafe viaduct. Well, certain you're lucky you didn't cross it last night. Yeah, but we don't know who warned us, replied Henry's driver. Later that day, he spoke to Henry. Well, viaduct's been fixed up. We can take our train back along the old line tonight. Henry really didn't want to do it. However, when nightfall struck, he was sizzling nicely. Suddenly, an owl hooted, and then Gordon thundered by. Oh, look! Henry is a spooked, said a truck, and the others giggled in their silly way. Shut your mouth, snapped Henry. I'm not scared. But internally he was. A little later, the fog came down. As they approached the same area, they saw the amber light again. Oh, shit, here we go again, said Henry's driver. Then, unbeknownst to Henry, the gates mysteriously closed all by themselves, and the signal went red. The trucks seen it all, and they were spooked too. Noel, faster! There's a ghost about! Stop! 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 Ah! Yelled Henry. A mysterious figure watched Henry go by and was very disapproved. Ahead was a landslide blocking the line. Henry braked hard, but the trucks hit some of the rubble and plunged into the goddamn ravine. Just then, Henry's driver saw a strange sight coming towards them. What's that? He said. That's our ghost. It's old Billy the Fogman. What the hell, man? What the hell? I tried to warn you about the viaduct, bruh. Why didn't you pay attention? We're sorry we ignored your warnings. Is there anything we can do to thank you? I'd like to operate that old station again, if you let me. I promise I won't spook Henry. And after a few weeks of work, Old Bailey's wish was granted. You and your station will be really useful, said the Fat Director. Let's hear a hearty thank you to the friendliest ghost on the island. Everyone cheered, especially Henry, who was the happiest of them all. Bill and Ben, the tank engine twins, work in the clay pits near Brendam Docks. Their work is important, but it can be hot and dirty. Sometimes this makes the twins naughty. One morning, they were feeling very naughty indeed. That's my line of trucks, huffed Bill. It's not. Yours is over there, boy. It's mine. It's not. It's mine. It's not. Their friend Boulder was worried. Stop your quarreling, you two, or the only thing you'll have left to share is trouble. Stupid, snapped Bill. Stupid yourself, grumbled Ben. Bill and Ben, shut your mouth and behave yourselves, or I shall send you to your sheds, said the Fat Director. It is also clear to me that we need another engine to help out. There's only one available. He's new and keen to make an impression. If I were you, whispered Bilko, I'd get back to work right now. Meanwhile, the Fat Director was having doubts about his own decision. I sure hope the new diesel doesn't cause more trouble. He's bound to have teething troubles. And he was right. Oh! My grease and oil, I wasn't expecting this hill! What the hell was that? His wheel spun, and then there was trouble. God damn it! Bilko came to the rescue. Sorry, said Derek. I'm just hot and bothered. I just got teething troubles, you know what I mean? The news soon spread down the region. Apparently it's teething troubles, confided Thomas to Percy. Hey, you two! This new diesel's got toothache! Good luck! Why does Percy want to wish us good luck? Asked Bill. Because he knows we'll need it. A diesel with toothache must be the worst diesel of them all. Then their manager spoke to them. You will take your loads to the docks and rest there tonight. There's hard work to do tomorrow. It was dark when the twins reached the docks. They left the trucks by the quay and scurried off to the shed. Well, you two do look glum, said Duck. It's the new diesel's fault, replied Bill. He's got toothache. Toothache? He's just got teething troubles. That means he's new, and this always causes problems. In his case, it's his cooling system. The next morning, as the twins were preparing to take a long train of trucks away, they heard an unfamiliar horn. Uh-oh, it's the new diesel! And it was. Hello, hello, hello! I'll soon sort this train out. You take the front, I'll push from behind. What fun! All went as they set off. And then they came to a rather peculiar incline. Come on, push harder, you silly diesel, shouted Ben. But Derek couldn't really push any hard. But then it happened. Oh, I'm overheating again. Oh, bullshit, snorted Bill. You know what? Let's just finish the journey anyway, okay? It means we'll have to pull Derek as well. Can you do it, twins? We'll try. And they could. That night, the Fat Director came to see them. Well done, Bill and Ben. I sent the new diesel back to the works. Can you manage alone? Oh, yes, sir. Bilko. I'm sorry we're rude to you. And the new diesel is actually friendly. And you know what friends do? Murmured Duck. No, what? They always say goodnight to each other. And so they did. But they still chattered about teething troubles regardless. Stepney, the Bluebell engine, works closely with his friend Rusty. One fine day, the Fat Director came to see him. Rusty tells me you're in need of a change, and I want you to help Toby and Mavis at the quarry. Oh, thank you, sir. Shall I be away long? Just for today. Just be careful. It's easy to get lost up there, so I'll be back before dark. Okay? We will, said the driver. Stepney soon arrived at the quarry. We're glad you're here to help us, said Toby. So, are those my trucks? Only some of them. Their mass is more in the sidings, replied Mavis. The more the merrier. Stepney was genuinely enjoying himself. The dustier he became, the harder he worked. The two engines were impressed. And then, the foreman arrived on the scene and was talking to his driver. We have a night special to take to the building site at the Peel Goddard branch line. You want to pull the train? Yes, please, said the driver. But he should have asked the fat director first. It was nightfall now. Be careful, Stepney, advised Toby. I will. Thank you for a lovely day. I sure hope I can come back again. Just so you know, the line can be spooky up there. All right. I'll remember that. And with that, Stepney puffed away into the night. Stepney arrived on time and made the delivery of rocks and stones for the workmen. And then he set off for homebound, and that's when the trouble began. The fog came down. Ooh, Mavis was right. Suddenly everything does look spooky. There's a signal box and a green signal. Someone must have been expecting us. But they really hadn't at all. The points had been set in the wrong direction, but Stepney didn't realize this. Off we go homebound, he thought. But he was dead-ass wrong. They approached an unknown area, and the driver decided to do something that would be a big mistake. We should probably rest here till the fog clears. What the hell was that? Wondered Stepney. The fog slowly lifted. What the hell? We're in the fucking scrapyards! His driver and fireman went for help. Stepney was all alone, but not for long. Two diesels approached. Gotcha this time, Stepney. You don't make very fine scrap indeed. Buffer him, Bert. Aye, aye, sir. The diesels took Stepney away and forced him into a large smelting shed. Well, this is where you go to die. Goodbye. Farewell, said the diesels. Stepney looked up. Above him was a huge grabber. This engine's not for scrapping, shouted Stepney. But the grabber just continued to lower and was just about to grab him. Oh, I totally regret being here. Well, the hell was that? Well, it's a good thing I chose to visit this yard tonight. Shaving you from scrap is becoming a habit, Stepney. Stop it. Yes, sir. Well, I've learned something, all right. And what's that? There is no place like home. Oh, that's exactly where you're going now. Bluebells forever! One fine morning, the fat director and his grandchildren came to see Toby. Come on, Toby, we're all going to Seaside. We'll ride in Henrietta. Yes, sir, said Toby happily. They came to a small seaside station. Soon the children were playing in the sand, building a splendid castle. The fat director inspected it. My word, that's a very fine castle you got there. You ever seen a real one like it? Yes, we did. It's here on the island. And they showed him the map. They met Toby at the harbor. Come on, we're going exploring. It'll be a great adventure. Soon enough, they were in the wildest part of the island, and they stopped by a lonely signal box. "So, where are you going today, then?" "We're just going to find an old castle," replied the fat director. "Oh, I know the place, sir," said the signalman. "There's a small junction not too far down the line. Just switch the points." And when the firemen switched the points, their adventure truly came to a very interesting beginning. Toby pushed past branches and bushes until they came to another little junction. There, they saw two signs. One read to the castle, and the other to the mine. "How about that? We're just going to go to the castle first." And so they did. And Toby stopped by an old water tower. "There it is! There is the castle!" "Yes, and now we're going to go take a look at the mine." And once upon a time, the mine was worked by the little engines, and their lines were still in place. Now everything was very rusty and overgrown. The fat director was most impressed, but Toby was scared. He was glad when it was time to leave. "Do you know what? I think the castle and the mine would make a very, very fine place for visitors. Just so you know, it will take some hard work to get this over with." "Yes, sir." The fat director's plans were soon put into action, but Toby was very concerned about this ordeal. "I'm sure this place is haunted," he said to himself. "It's our turn to stay here on guard tonight, Toby." "Oh, yeah, why not?" started Toby. "Beware of the ghost, Toby," Thomas said. "What ghost?" "The old warrior ghost. Every night he lights his fire, then goes hunting. Toot, toot, goodbye!" Nightfall had arrived, and Toby looked anxiously around. Everything seemed rather spooky. Quite suddenly, he heard a strange wheezing sound. "It's the ghost!" he wailed. "What ghost?" his driver asked. "It's the old warrior! He's come to eat me for dinner!" "Don't be so daft. We'll go and investigate." They returned once again. "The old warrior wants to meet you," laughed his fireman. "Can't it wait till morning?" "Oh, I don't think so. Ghosts don't work day shifts. And they never did. Never will." And Toby bravely made his way. "Well, bless my bell," he exclaimed. There in front of him was a little engine. "So this is your ghost, Toby? His name's really Bertram, but we call him the old warrior, 'cause he's so brave." Bertram and Toby are now firm friends. They take visitors to the splendid castle in the mine. If there are any ghosts here, they certainly help make this place very happy. One fine day, Thomas was at the quayside of a small village. The early morning catch of fish was being loaded onto his trucks. The work took extraordinarily a long time. The fishermen were using old equipment, and Thomas was worried. "I'm going to be late for Henry at the harbor. He's not going to like this. Please hurry up and..." What a pong! Thomas was glad when they were speeding along the beautiful coastal run. And as they approached the lighthouse, they saw a man waving a red flag. "The hell is going on now?" "High tides are damaging the bridge ahead," reported the man. "I just marked the spot." "We'll go take a look," said the driver. "Huh. It'd be dangerous for heavy engines like Henry to pass through this. But, you, Thomas? You seem safe to pass through. Should not be a problem for you." The guard left the red oil lamp by the damaged track to warn the heavier engines. "And when we get to the harbor, I'm going to tell them to close the line." Henry was waiting anxiously for Thomas's trucks. You're late, and that smell is making me ill. I can't help it. It's the fish, replied Thomas. And there's danger on the rails. That's why we're late. Huh! You're the only danger on the rails, Thomas. Now stop wasting your goddamn time and get your trucks hitched to my train. Thomas's driver and fireman were in the harbor manager's office, and when they heard Henry's whistle, there he was, steaming out of the harbor with his long, heavy train called the Flying Kipper. So what route is Henry taking tonight? I'm just curious, asked the driver. Oh, just the coastal run. It is the quickest. But I told you! It's dangerous for a big engine like Henry! The harbor manager quickly phoned the signalman, and Henry roared past the signal box. I'm gonna make up for lost time! The signalman was answering telephone, but he couldn't hear the warning for some reason. By the time he did, Henry was far away in a cloud of steam. When Henry reached the coastal junction, his hopes for a fast run was zero. Fog floated everywhere. I can't see! Cried Henry. Nor could his driver. And when he could, it was too late. The next morning, as soon as the tide was high enough, Henry was craned out of the water. Engines don't swim, Henry, you stupid idiot. You're meant to deliver fish, not become the Little Mermaid, said the fat director. You should know that by now. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Well, I expect you have some fishy tales to tell. But take my advice. Have a long hose down first, okay? Ha! But there was worse to come. God, they caught all the fish and a green whale, too! It's not a whale, it's a monster! Henry was depressed. Thomas now felt sorry for Henry. Come on, your driver says it's time for a nice hot wash down. Then you'll feel much better. And Henry did. I'm sorry I was being an ass to you, Thomas. Oh, that's all right. But can you smell something? What? What? Fresh air! Oh, you got me there. Thomas, Percy, and James were looking at the early morning sky. Ah, everyone is so much happier when springtime comes, said Thomas happily. Everyone except the fat director. He seems to be working us harder than ever. I'm sick and goddamn tired of these coastal runs. Oh, don't worry. He just wants everything to be ready for the holidays, replied Percy. Anyway, salty air makes me all cheerful in my smoke box. Bullshit. It's the countryside that gets me all fired up. It's the only place to be. And he puffed away to collect his fuel trucks from the docks. Thomas and Percy had to take some empty trucks to the scrapyard. As they were shunting the trucks onto a siding, they saw an old coach, and she looked very sad and possibly depressed. What are you doing here? They called me old slow coach and told me I wasn't useful anymore. And now the mice ride in me. Well, you may be dusty, but you look in perfect shape. The art manager appeared. Come along, I have some trucks for you to take away. Excuse me, can you tell us about this coach? Oh, old slow coach? She's been here for years. She'll be broken up when we find the time, he replied. The engines were disappointed. We'll try and help you, said Thomas, but he didn't know how. Meanwhile, James was enjoying himself. This is the life, he chortled. But he was heading for trouble. One of the fuel trucks was leaking, and suddenly it caught fire. Oh God, 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 God, help! Cried James. They reached the siding, and his driver gave the alarm. It's fuel, and it's dangerous. As Thomas and Percy approached the siding, they saw the smoke and a guard waving a red flag. Sparks from James's funnel set a fuel trucks ablaze. The firemen got things under control, but it's quite a mess. You said the countryside were under control fired up, James, but I didn't think you meant it in this way. Pah! It was the stupid truck's fault, not mine. It's safe to proceed now, called the fireman. Thomas and Percy puffed cautiously. By now, they felt sorry for James, and it wasn't long before they reached the seaside station. As they were contemplating about life choices and other miscellaneous stuff, they heard a commotion. The hell's going on? It's another fire at the workman's hut, replied Thomas' driver. We better see what we can do. The both arrived, but they had a big problem. Move! Damn, we're out of water. We can't use seawater because it clogs our works. We'll just have to let that building burn. Why don't you just use the water in our tanks? We just refilled them. Oh, okay. Whatever. The fireman wasted no time. Wow. You two are very clever. Soon the fire was out. However, the hut where the workmen lived was destroyed. We need to find something to house the men. They can't sleep homeless. What about old Soul Coach? She'll be perfect for the workmen. And comfortable, too, added Thomas. What a good idea, Percy, said his driver. They phoned the fat director, and he agreed. She'll be spick and span by the time you take her. And she was, and very happy, too. I simply cannot thank you enough, she said. I feel splendid. The engines buffered up to her, and she set off happily for her new home. Everyone agreed that there was nothing old or slow about this coach, and she will always be really useful indeed. And there was much rejoicing. The engines on the island of Sodor love holiday time. Percy was taking some trucks to the docks. Terrence the tractor was working on his field close to the line. Hello, Percy. Nice day for it, isn't it, boy? Percy was confused. Nice day for what? Mrs. Conley's daughter is getting married today. Oh, yes, of course, said Percy. When Percy saw Mrs. Conley, she was standing by her gate, and she was waving a red flag. What's going on? Asked the driver. I've forgotten about the good luck package for the bride. Percy was puzzled. What good luck package? It must contain something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. Can you help me, please? Percy didn't know how, but his driver was determined. We'll certainly try. Percy had to stop at a random station just to take on water. We've got to find a good luck package. Do you know what it is? Oh, yes indeed. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. But where the hell do we find them? They're probably staring at you in your smoke box. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to fetch my special train. I'm taking guests to the wedding. Oh. When Percy arrived at the docks, he looked all around him. Suddenly, he saw a truck. It was loaded with a new set of shiny buffers. Look, there's something new! You're darn right, Percy, said his driver. Those buffers are just a ticket. I'm going to speak to the dock manager about this. And he returned a few seconds later. The manager said we can use them and borrow the truck as well. So that's two things we found. Something borrowed and something new. But what about the other things? I'm sure we'll find them too. Now we'd best be on our way. Very soon, they reached Tidmouth Hall. As Percy was shunting some more trucks into his hiding, he heard a voice. "Hello, Percy!" There was old Slowcoach, who he and Thomas rescued from scrap a couple days ago. "You're it!" squeaked Percy. "I'm what it?" "Something old for the wedding!" And Percy explained. "Now we only have to find something blue. But what? And where?" "You'll see," said his driver. Percy's unusual train was on its way. At long last, they reached the vicarage, where the wedding was to take place. Ahead was a siding. "What do you think of this, Percy?" "Well, bust my boiler, Thomas! What are you doing here?" "I'm the something blue." "Now, Percy," said his driver, "Mrs. Kindly has chosen you to be your special guest." When the bride and groom left the church a few hours later for the party, the fat director addressed everybody. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the good luck package. Something old, something new, something borrowed, and of course, something blue. All of them found by Percy and his crew." The engines whistled and everybody cheered. "Thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Percy," said the bride. "It is the greatest good luck package I've ever seen." And she gave Percy a kiss. "Oh, stop it, you." "Oh, I love weddings so much." "Did you like your kiss? Was it enjoyable?" "Sorry, can't hear you. I gotta have some Hershey bars." Oh. One summer's day, the fat director arranged with Thomas the Tank Engine to take his wife and grandchildren to the seaside. The sun shone, and everywhere looked splendid. But Lady Hatt was feeling hot and tired. She took her troubles out on Annie and Clarabelle. "Those coaches are old and uncomfortable. Why don't you just use them as beach huts instead?" "Oh, you won't let them turn Annie and Clarabelle into beach huts, will you?" "Of course not, but I must admit they could be smartened up." Next day, the fat director used Percy to take his family to Harold's airfield. They were about to board Harold when something very unexpected happened. A small biplane was flying too low to the ground, and so the fat director had to duck and cover. "Whoa! What the hell was that?" gasped the fat director. "Oh, that's Tiger Moth," grumbled Harold. "He's rude and flies too much low. So I can see. Please take me up there, Harold, before there's another disturbance." And about a week later, Harold arrived at the holiday home with bad news. "It's Tiger Moth. He's gone missing. You want to join the search with us?" "Oh, I'm gonna have to." It had been a few hours into the search. Harold flew all over the island looking for Tiger Moth. All of a sudden, the fat director noticed something poking out of some hay bales. "There it is! There's Tiger Moth!" called the fat director. And then he spoke to the pilot. "You are showing off and flying dangerously. I'm going to speak to your controller and request that you're grounded." "Shit," replied the pilot. "Now if you excuse me, I shall return to my holiday." "That is a good idea, sir." The fat director arranged later on to meet up with Toby and Henrietta at Marthwaite to take them somewhere special. And so they arrived at a small canal inlet. "Oh my God, what a beautiful boat!" exclaimed the children. "It's my special treat." The fat director took the helm with his wife beside him. It's so nice to be away from the railway for once, he said to her. And far cleaner, too, she replied. Life on the river is very different from that on the rails. The family were enjoying themselves so much that they forgot to watch they were going. And the boat began to beach itself onto the mud bank. Botheration, said the fat director. That's my line. We're stuck. And they were. Other boats tried to pull them off the mud bank, but it was no use. Percy saw the commotion and stopped. Hello there. Anything we could do to help you out? Yes, there is, replied the fat director. Ah, this is the life, isn't it? We're sure gonna post this on Facebook. Soon they arrived at Tidmouth Hall. There was Thomas with Annie and Clarabelle, who were looking as smart as their new paint, inside and out. Whoa, what splendid coaches! So much more suitable than those old beach huts on wheels. No one said a word, but that evening, Annie and Clarabelle had the guts to speak to Thomas. It's very nice to get compliments, but no matter what we look like, we'll always be useful, won't we, Thomas? Yep! Percy was working in the coal mines. He was feeling bored and lonely with only the Sully trucks for company. Cheer up, Percy, said the driver. Fat director told me we must be here again tomorrow. We just gotta make the best of a bad situation. I'll try, sir, said Percy. The next morning, Percy puffed back to the coal mines, and when he arrived, the truck started teasing him. Percy, green and small, he's no use to us at all. Around the yards, we'll puff and blow, but on the hills he's oh so slow. Shut up! Shut the frick up! And then he took the trucks to the coal hopper to be loaded up. Percy still felt glum and he said nothing. And he ascended a steep incline to the yards at the top of the hill. He parked his trucks and then set back off down in the mines. Not even the cheerful sight of Bertie could bring a smile to Percy's face. Hello, what's going on, Percy? Nothing exciting ever happens. That's the matter. It's just cold, trucks. I'm bored as hell. Excitement is surprising. You never know when it'll happen. Otherwise, it wouldn't be really exciting. Toodle beep. It would be surprising if something surprising happened, muttered Percy. Later, he stopped by the water tower for a nice drink. Hello, Percy. How are things? Boring. Well, why have the last few fast spins on turntable? You'll like that. That'll just copy James and that turntable joke. Percy's driver interrupted. Stop gossiping, you two. Cheer up, Percy. You know more about trucks than any other engine. That'll be exciting. The trucks were still grumbling, and there was more of them than ever. You're much too small to pull of us. We want another engine, or we'll be struggling up there all night. All right, you can puff and blow, but on that hill, you're still too slow. Shut up! Slow yourself! Stuttered Percy. You need to watch your attitude, giggled the trucks. But Percy decided to carry on. Go to it, Percy! Shouted the driver. As they started to climb the hill, the trucks were still complaining. Too slow! More power! Here all night! And tomorrow too! Shut up! Said Percy angrily. And then there was trouble. A coupling broke. Surprise, surprise! Catch us if you can! Oh, no! Cried Percy. The heavy trucks rolled down the hill at a great speed, much to Percy and Bertie's horror. Percy's driver told the signalman about this whole ordeal, and the station master decided to exclaim to the fat director what was happening. They're heading for the next hill. It'll slow them down, but they may roll back again right into the village. Well, we'll just have to stop them, won't we? Said the fat director firmly. The chase was on. As they approached the hill, they overtook the trucks, which was quite surprising. The fat director and Birdie decided to halt and waited for them near the top. The hill slowed the trucks right down to a standstill, and then the men quickly put wooden blocks behind their wheels and then screwed their brakes hard on so they couldn't roll backwards. The trucks were now secured. Just then, Percy made his arrival. Well, well, well. What did you think of this whole ordeal? Joked Bertie. A good chase is always exciting. Well, certainly was a surprise indeed. And you were right, Bertie. A really useful engine should never be surprised by a surprise. It was holiday time on the island of Sodor. Everybody was working hard and happily, except for James for some crazy reason. Why should a splendid engine like me take messy coal trucks instead of coaches? Percy or Oliver should do it. They're not as important as I am. James, why don't you think about something or someone else for a change? You'd be surprised how much better you feel if you actually do it. Ha! Being important is the only thing for me to think about. And he puffed away in a cloud of steam. Later, a plane was buzzing by, and on the back of it hung a huge banner. Visit Harry Topper's Fair at Rolf's Castle. That plane's making a great deal of noise about something, said Oliver to Percy. His name is Tiger Moth. He's flying around telling everybody about the fair that's arriving today. What are you two doing over here, eh? Fat Director wants us to pick up a special load from the docks. And I think it's got something to do with the fair, added Percy, and they puffed away. Meanwhile, James was collecting quarry trucks at the top station of the branch line. Dustier as hell, he grumbled. And then he saw Mrs. Kindly. Well, she looks miserable. What's going on? My husband passed away yesterday. And I just got back from his funeral. The fat director soon heard the sad news. We must cheer her up. Send Harold to pick her up immediately. A few minutes later, there was indeed a surprise for Mrs. Kindly. All present and correct, called Harold. I'm here on a flying visit. Hurry aboard, Kindly, and fly the sky with me. Compliments of the fat director. Oh, how lovely. Harold's made my red paint dustier as hell again, muttered James. But he was secretly glad for Mrs. Kindly, and soon she was flying high in Harold. I have never seen the island like this before. It's so wonderful, she said. Meanwhile, Percy and Oliver had arrived at the docks. Cranky was unloading an old tramp steamer. Hey, you there! I'm playing Lucky Dip in the Tramper's Hole, and all of these are for you. Wooden horses, Percy exclaimed, for the carousel ride. It's going to be a very exciting fair. Oh, indeed it is, whistled James. The fat director ordered me to stop pulling coal trucks and go to the airfield instead. Something to do with Mrs. Kindly. Goodbye! What do you think of that? Gasped Percy. Mrs. Kindly was waiting for James with the fat director. Now this is your very special treat. James will take you on a mystery ride, and I shall meet you at your destination. James took Mrs. Kindly along her favorite scenic route to Rolf's Castle. Upon arrival, it was dark, and a big surprise awaited Mrs. Kindly. Oh, you brought me to the fairground! How lovely! The best of all, Fat Director invited her to make the announcement. I declare this fairground open for business! The side stalls lit up, and Mrs. Kindly had the first ride on the carousel. You were right, Thomas. James whispered. Making someone happy does cheer you up. And then everybody watched a fun fair. And of course, there was much rejoicing. Come on over here, you. Oh, look at this guy over here. I'm going to pop some balloons. Smashy, smashy, smashy! Toad the brake van was feeling sad. Everywhere he looked, he could see engines and coaches moving steadily forwards. They all looked confident and cheerful. One day, he decided to talk to Oliver about this whole ordeal, just to get his insight on what this whole scenario is taking place. Oh, I'm always going backwards, Mr. Oliver. I have forward-thinking views. If I could be a leader, if you know what I mean. You can't be a leader without a train to follow you. You don't have a train. Toad felt sadder still. Oliver wanted to help. You're a useful brake van indeed, Toad. You help me brake, and you keep my trucks in order when we go down hills. I know, Mr. Oliver, but it would be so exciting to go forwards for a change, instead of always seeing things sliding away from me. The trucks were cross with Toad. Who is he to start complaining? He's lucky to be able to look after us. Let's teach him a lesson, shall we? I like that idea. The trucks decided to carry out their plan. A few seconds after they encounter Gordon's Hill. When they were nearly at the top, they played their tricks. Okay, this is where we disembark. On your marks, get set, go! Hey, you're making your wish come true, Toad. Follow the leader! Toad was in a state of shock, and he didn't know what to think, so he couldn't ask the guard. He jumped clear. Chicken Parmesan. Faster, as fast as you want, okay? Suddenly, Toad realized that going forwards was a big mistake. What a fun day! Toad suddenly realized that he made a big mistake. After crashing, Toad realized he was on the wrong track and he saw Gordon. On! Faster! What was that? Sorry, Gordon! God! What the hell was that? The signalman warned the station master at the next station. There is a runaway coming! We'll send them on to the sidings. I realized this was a big mistake! Ah! Oh my god! Buffers! They're gonna stop me! But the place where the buffers weren't set. Oh, I spoke too soon! I must catch Toad. I must. Surely he couldn't have gone a dozen miles. There was a lot of danger up ahead. Men were working on a bridge, but they'd been warned about the runaway Toad and his trucks. They diverted him onto an old siding straight into a muddy pool. Safe at last. Pond's the only place for a Toad, I suppose. That night, Toad spoke to Oliver. I'm sorry, Mr. Oliver, if I caused you any embarrassment. That's alright, Toad. So, what you think of going forwards? It was fun, but from now on, I'll be happy to look forward to the future. Busy going backwards, so to speak. I like that response. The little engines were busy clearing their railway of leaves and broken branches. Peter, Sam, and Rusty often worked together. One day, Rusty helped Peter Sam to a water tower near the top station, and once there, he hooted goodbye. Peter Sam felt better after his long drink, but the trucks were bored. "Let's just break away," they giggled. Their loads were heavy, and the couplings old. One snapped. "Let's go!" A sign just behind him simply read, "Slow, steep bends, and ravine ahead." Silly trucks didn't see it, but when they did, it was too late. Holy shit, that's a bunch of casualties. We didn't secure them properly. I just wish there was something we could do to prevent this death from happening again. The fat director will be annoyed. And indeed he was. "You'll shunt trucks in the yard so I can trust you again." Duncan was very pleased with Peter Sam's dilemma. "Fancy not securing your trucks on the hill. They'll come back to spook you in your special funnel. Woo! And who's to say you're not afraid of ghosts?" snapped Rusty. "Pah! Ghosts! Things that go bump in the night? Rubbish!" "Well, I'll tell you a story that'll make your funnel quiver," Rusty said. A long time ago, a little engine was returning to his home, and it was a very dark night. As the engine crossed the old iron bridge, he lost control for some reason, and plunged over the side into the swamps below. It is assumed that the engine passed away just after this incident. Many a workman will tell you, when the moon is full, they have seen the little engine trying to get home, but he never reaches the other side. So, what'd you think of that, Duncan? "That's but a bunch of baloney," and he puffed away. Never mind him, Peter Sam. He'd be frightened if he really did see a ghost. This gave Peter Sam's driver an idea. "Let's troll Duncan." Next day, he spoke to Duncan's driver and fireman, who agreed. "We'll do it tonight," they said. Duncan had to take empty trucks to the quarry and then being loaded trucks back. Duncan's driver decided, as part of the plan, to cross the old iron bridge. "Haunted bridge? That's a bunch of baloney! It's as tame as a pet rabbit." All the same, he kept thinking about Rusty's story. And when dusk finally fell, he was keen to leave. At nighttime, after everything was all settled, they went to the bridge. Duncan remembered to whistle here. The sound echoed everywhere. And then, just up ahead, he saw flickering lights. His driver knew they were only little insects that shine brightly at night. However, unbeknownst to Duncan, it looked like an engine. Up next, his driver secretly threw a large rock from the cab into the ravine below. "Holy shit! It is the ghost! Ah! Take me back! Take me back, please!" When Duncan reached the safety of his shed, he closed his eyes. "Spooked, are you, Duncan?" "No, I'm sleeping. Get out of here." He did, though, when he thought driver wasn't looking, just to make sure he was still there. On the island of Sodor, high up in the mountains, was a mysterious boulder. It stood alone for many years. One day, workmen arrived to build a quarry on the land below. Rusty met Thomas and Percy. "Where's all this rock coming from?" "The new quarry. This mountain rock is good for many things, although it's dangerous up there. Why? Because of a big boulder. I think it's watching me. But how can it be? Boulders don't have eyes. That says maybe, Percy, but there's something strange about this one. Just then, Edward arrived. He was delivering a new piece of machinery from the quarry. What is that? Asked Rusty. It's called Thumper. Apparently he helps collect the rock faster. Soon, Thumper was working hard. The men were pleased about this, but nobody gave a shit about the boulder. A sudden downpour occurred. The workmen went away. Rusty gazed up and shivered. Above stood Boulder. Suddenly, a large slab of rock landed on the rails. Well, I guess we better get out of here till the weather's better. The rain loosened some of this rock. I think it's Boulder wanting us to go away, whispered Rusty. The next day, the sun shone and Thumper was working even harder. Suddenly, Rusty noticed something. Uh-oh! Boulder is moving! Don't be so daft. It can't. But it could. Oh, shit! It's rolling along our line! Okay, we'll just stop here till the boulder passes by. But Boulder was nowhere to be seen, and all of a sudden... Seriously? It's behind us? They saw a small junction, and one line went uphill, and Boulder thundered past downwards. Scarlet was making his way up to the quarry, and then he saw Boulder. Boulder was catching up to them fast, and so they veered into a siding. We must warn the yards, shouted Scarlet. Yeah, but how are we going to do it? What the? Oh no, it's running loose! Ah! Well, rather a smash than a squash. That was a close one. At the yards, Percy was collecting trucks, and then he heard Boulder. Oh my God! It's heading straight for me! Ah! When the Fat Director inspected the damage, he decided to shut down the mine, and then he looked at the rock. Well, this is an act of God telling me that we should have left this part of the island alone. They moved Boulder to a hill close by the yards. Rusty is sure that on a clear night it is gazing up at the mountain and that its eyes are being carried on to the wind where it once used to stand proud and silent. I wonder if Rusty is right. Bah! He probably is.